It was March 18th, 1990, St. Patrick's Day weekend. Most of Boston was either partying or sleeping. But at 1:24 a.m., two men dressed as Boston police officers approached the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They rang the buzzer at the side entrance, claiming they were responding to a disturbance. The security guard on duty, against protocol, let them in. That single decision triggered the most expensive and unsolved art heist in history. Within minutes, the so-called officers had handcuffed both guards and locked them in the basement. What followed was 81 minutes of precise, deliberate theft. No alarms went off. No backup arrived. And by the time morning came, $500 million in priceless art had simply vanished. The Gardner Museum, a treasure box of history. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum wasn't just a museum, it was a time capsule. Built to look like a 15th century Venetian palace, it held some of the world's rarest and most valuable works of art. Paintings by Vermeer, Rembrandt, Degas, and Monet lined the walls. Tapestries, ancient artifacts, and rare manuscripts sat untouched for over a century. The museum was designed by Isabella herself, an eccentric art collector who stipulated in her will that nothing in the gallery should ever be moved. After the heist, the empty frames remained on the walls, just as she instructed, like ghosts of masterpieces lost forever. The night of the heist. The thieves didn't rush. They moved with eerie calm. After tying up the guards, they walked through the museum's corridors, choosing their targets carefully. They didn't steal the most famous or most valuable pieces. They stole what they seemed to want. A Rembrandt self-portrait was left untouched, but a tiny landscape by Vermeer, a painting so rare it's one of only 34 by him in existence, was taken. They broke some pieces out of their frames with box cutters. Others were carefully unscrewed. It wasn't just theft, it was surgical. At 2:45 a.m., they exited through the same door they came in, and they were gone. The missing masterpieces. 13 pieces were taken. Among them, The Concert by Vermeer, worth over $200 million. Storm on the Sea of Galilee, the only known seascape by Rembrandt. Sketches by Degas, a Chinese bronze beaker from the Shang dynasty. Even a small eagle-shaped finial from a Napoleonic flag. The selections were strange. Some experts believe the thieves weren't professionals in art, but others say they were following a buyer's list. Either way, the stolen pieces have never resurfaced. Not at auctions, not in black markets, nowhere. The perfect crime? Everything about the heist pointed to planning. The thieves knew the museum had no active alarms on its artwork. They knew when the motion detectors were off. They knew there was no silent police alert. And they somehow disabled the security system without setting off any warnings. Even stranger, police response didn't happen until the next morning when staff arrived. By then, the trail was cold. No fingerprints, no surveillance footage, just empty frames and questions. Inside Job? Suspicion grows. FBI agents quickly focused on the possibility of an inside job. The guard who let the thieves in had violated protocol, and his story raised eyebrows. He claimed he didn't recognize them but still buzzed them in. Later, he failed 2 polygraph tests. Some employees had recently been fired. Others had shady connections. But nothing stuck. The investigation hit wall after wall. The deeper they dug, the more it seemed like someone inside knew exactly what they were doing or was paid to look the other way. The mob connection. In the following years, the FBI followed leads into Boston's underworld. Several notorious gangsters like Carmine Romano and Bobby Donati were suspected of being involved. Donati, in particular, had a history with art theft and was murdered a year after the heist. Informants claimed the paintings were being used as bargaining chips for reduced prison sentences or for leverage in mafia negotiations. Still, no hard proof ever surfaced. The artwork remained hidden and the mob suspects dead or silent. The hunt across the globe. The search went global. Interpol, Scotland Yard, even art historians in the Middle East were involved. Tips poured in from all over the world, some claiming the paintings were in Japan, others in Saudi Arabia, or buried deep in Europe's black market. A few shady art dealers claimed they saw one of the stolen works in private collections, but nothing could be verified. The Gardner Museum even sent emissaries to negotiate with anonymous sources, but every deal collapsed. It was as if the paintings had been swallowed by the earth. The $10 million reward. In 2017, the Gardner Museum increased its reward to $10 million. No questions asked. That's the highest reward ever offered for stolen artwork. People came forward with wild stories, but none led to the missing pieces. Some claimed the paintings were destroyed to erase evidence. Others believed they were being secretly traded among billionaires in private vaults. Despite thousands of tips and dozens of suspects, not a single piece has ever returned home. The empty frames remain. Over 30 years later, the empty frames still hang in the museum, untouched. A daily reminder of what was taken and how easily it happened. The museum remains frozen in time, as Isabella intended. Visitors walk by the ghostly outlines of lost masterpieces. Children ask why there are no paintings inside the frames. And the staff still hopes that one day the door will open and someone will return them. Until then, the greatest art heist in history remains. Unsolved.